Hello and welcome to episode 71 of the How to Survive podcast. It is, of course, 10 weeks since we last covered a Friday the 13th movie, so it is our obligation, our duty, some would say our curse, to cover another Friday the 13th movie. This week it is Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Next week we're covering the latest hot release in the cinemas. It is Rogue One, a Star Wars story. And in the meantime, check your feeds over Christmas because there might just be a couple of extra episodes dropping to celebrate the festive period. So if you've got any thoughts on any of the films that we cover or any suggestions, howtosurviveshow@gmail.com, at howtosurvivepod on Twitter. On with the show.
Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Now, New York has a new problem.
Hello and welcome to episode 71 of the How to Survive podcast. My name is Chris, and joining me on this ship navigating the rocky seas of movie survival is my good friend and co-captain, Joe.
How you doing?
I'm very well, Joe. I'm so excited to talk about such a great movie this week.
I know, it only comes once every 10 weeks.
Yeah.
And really, it's not enough, is it?
No, it's not.
I sit there for the interim 10 weeks watching movies like Oscar-nominated films. I mean, we've had The Revenant in the past, which is a very, very good film.
Yeah, Arrival, I was like, boring. Yeah. When is someone going to get massacred?
You know what I want? Someone to get stabbed from off-screen by someone who is obviously Jason Vorhees. Why don't you just show his full body? Because there's no mystery to it anymore.
Exactly.
That's what we want.
Yeah.
And luckily this week we got it.
Yeah, it's Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. It's directed by Rob Hedden. Mm-hmm. Came out all the way back in 1989.
Yeah, and it's tactfully named Jason Takes Manhattan because, of course, the main dramatic crux of the film takes place in Manhattan, doesn't it?
Yes, of course, yeah. Most of the whole film, surely, Joe.
Yeah.
With that title, how could it take place anywhere else?
Yeah, I mean, what you're thinking is, we know Jason lives at Camp Crystal Lake.
Of course.
In the lake, usually. Yeah. How did he get to Manhattan?
Well, let's find out. And, of course, it's 27 years since the film came out. So if you've been holding off until now, then don't listen to this podcast until you've seen it because we're going to spoil it to everyone else who is a normal person and doesn't care about the plot of the Friday the 13th franchise, then let's dive straight in. But before we recap the plot, Joe, you may be aware that if you Google a movie, you often get a brief little synopsis.
Yeah, sure.
So, for example, a couple of weeks back, we did War of the Worlds. Mm-hmm. The synopsis Google pulls in for that, the most salient points that it pulls in is War of the Worlds is a 2005 American science fiction disaster movie directed by Steven Spielberg and written by Josh Friedman and David Cope. Loosely based on the novel of the same title by H.G. Wells,
Yeah, all correct.
Informative. Yeah. Reservoir Dogs, a classic movie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that says a group of thieves assemble to pull off the perfect diamond heist. It turns into a bloody ambush when one of the men turns out to be a police informant.
Okay, so nice tight synopsis.
Yeah. For Friday the 13th, Part 8, if you Google that, the information that gets pulled through is the worst in a string of increasingly pointless sequels to Sean S. Cunningham's crude slasher hit. This instalment provided clear evidence that the slasher subgenre, already creatively dead, was no longer financially viable.
That's the most important part of all the information online about
Basically,
the film.
It's like the Sparks notes to this film is that... let's just recap that. Clear evidence that the slasher subgenre, already creatively dead, was no longer financially viable. So a commercial and a creative failure. That's Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan.
So what happens in the film to earn it that accolade?
Well, Joe, the film opens on bland establishing shots of the streets of what is clearly 1980s New York City, despite the film being set in 2002, following the tradition of having a confusing passage of time in the Friday the 13th franchise.
Yes.
Back at Crystal Lake, we meet Jim and Susie, two graduating high school students aboard a houseboat. And they're sort of, they're getting down to it, Joe.
They're not, are they?
They are.
I hope they're not in any immediate trouble.
Well, what they do, Joe, is they venture into the greatest foreplay of all, which is laboriously explaining the myth of Jason Voorhees to one another, even though they live in the direct vicinity of the lake and would obviously know the story themselves. Yeah. But unbeknownst to them, Joe, the anchor from their houseboat tears through an underwater power cable.
Oh, it doesn't.
Yeah. And the electricity from it reanimates Jason Vorhees, whose body is at the bottom of the lake.
It's been there since presumably Tina.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The psychic from Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood.
Yes.
Trapped him there.
Yeah. Just a little side note: Tina was originally supposed to appear in this movie,
right,
and the sequels, which you'll sort of get hints of. The fact that they sort of rewrote the film, but maybe not entirely, as the synopsis progresses.
Okay.
Anyway, to recap, basically Jim and Susie are both killed by Jason.
They're not, are they?
Yeah. The next morning, the SS Lazarus is ready to set sail for New York City.
Okay.
And on board are the graduating senior class of Lakeview High School, as well as two of their teachers.
Okay.
Which is adjacent to Camp Crystal Lake, as you might imagine. Now, I could go through all the characters here, but let's be honest, nobody cares.
No. Teenagers played by adults.
Basically, if you've seen any Friday the 13th movie, it's the same, but this time they're on a boat.
Yep.
Yeah, they're on a boat, basically. So some teenagers get on a boat, right? As does Jason, who sneaks aboard and starts killing them off one by one, despite the fact that he has no reason to do, because they are neither camp counselors invading the space around Camp Crystal Lake or any of the other motives that we've seen from him in the past.
Well, the intro chat about Jason tells us that he does just kill teenagers because he blames all teenagers for the death of his mother. It's
weird that he also went so far out of his way in part 2 to kill the one specific teenager that killed his mother. Yeah. Anyway, one student, Rennie, who is the sort of protagonist, sees a vision of Jason as a child through the underwater window of her room, which also spooks her pet border collie, Toby, who runs away. While searching for Toby through the bowels of the ship, Rennie discovers prom queen Tamara and her friend Eva doing drugs, Joe. Their teacher, McCulloch, nearly catches them moments later, and so Tamara thinks that Rennie is telling on them.
Knocked on them, yeah.
Knocked on them, exactly. And so what she does is push her overboard.
At night,
in the middle of the
high
night.
Seas.
Exactly. So attempted murder.
Yeah.
They manage to fish Rennie out, but not before she sees another vision of the child Jason underwater, and this time he's a little bit more deformed, Joe.
Yeah.
And he begs her for help. As the ship heads across the stormy seas, Jason kills each student in turn. In new and exciting manners, Joe. Things like stabbing and bludgeoning them.
From off screen?
Yeah, it's really, they're pushing the boat out, so to speak. Things we've never seen before in the franchise. Some of the teenagers are even naked when he does it,
They're
Joe.
not, are they?
Yeah, but only the women.
Okay. That's all right then.
Yeah, it becomes apparent that Jason can also teleport at will because he teleports. But I mean, there's no because. He just does. Yes. Right? So Jason teleports, that's the thing. Eventually, only Rennie, her boyfriend Sean, boxer Julius, and the two teachers remain. As the ship sinks, they climb into a lifeboat and they manage to row to New York.
Yeah. No mean feat, because New York isn't visible on the horizon.
No, exactly. And, and it's night and foggy and also in a swimming pool.
Yes.
Where they filmed it, clearly. Jason swims after them and chases the group through the city, punching Julius's head clean off with one punch.
Yes.
While trying to escape Jason in a police car, Rennie is distracted by another vision of the child Jason in what is one of the worst film scenes that I've ever seen, and crashes the car. And one of her teachers, the female one, whose name I've neglected to learn, dies in the explosion. And then Jason kills the other one. Through teleporting. He doesn't kill him through he
teleports in.
Yeah, basically we see the teacher in the street and he looks over his shoulder at Jason and then he runs into a house, and then within the same shot, so without any break in time, the teacher then flies out of an upstairs window having been thrown by Jason, and then Jason appears on the street again within the same shot. So basically Jason can teleport, that's the thing. Don't worry about it. Sean and Rennie make it to Times Square, but are astonished to find out that Jason is still chasing them unrelentlessly, and so they hide.
That's not like him.
No, and then they hide in the sewers. Rennie throws toxic waste over Jason's face, forcing him to remove his mask and reveal his horrific visage, and deformed face and everything. And Rennie and Sean hide up a ladder because, as they've been informed by a sewerage worker who also is killed by Jason, the New York sewerage system on the stroke of midnight fills with toxic waste, like just instantly. Just floods completely with it. So they hide up a ladder. Jason tries to get up, but is hit by the toxic waste, and he sort of thrashes around in it, and we see him sort of melting. And then the waters recede, and the child version of Jason is lying at the foot of the ladder. And then it's just never explained. No explanation is offered ever.
Do you need one? That should make perfect sense.
Basically, he gets melted into his former child self.
What's wrong with that?
And that's how that scene ends. Then Sean and Rennie are just walking the streets of Manhattan, and Toby rocks up, basically the dog, and then they just head off into the distance, satisfied that Jason Voorhees is never to return, because surely they could never make a sequel to a film this bad. Joe, wouldn't you agree?
Well, I know they did. So, but you're right. It is a pretty dire. I mean,
let's take a look at the critical reception just before we
we dive in.
Yeah, of course. Entertainment Weekly labelled it the 8th worst sequel ever made. Film review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes reports an approval rating of 8% based on 24 reviews. The rating average is 3 out of 10.
Right.
Film critic Leonard Maltin, however, gave the film a more positive review, awarding the film 2 out of 4 stars, calling it the best in the series.
What? In what series?
So I have 2 questions for you, Joe.
Right, okay.
Is this the worst Friday the 13th film, and is this the worst film you've ever seen?
Yes to the first one.
Yeah.
The second one is, I don't know, like a bad film for me is something like Independence Day Resurgence, which is just like a competently made disaster. Like in terms of it should be good.
A competently made disaster. I thought you were going to say disaster film.
No.
But you actually mean it is a disaster.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Though that is a truly bad film. Or say like the Nightmare on Elm Street remake,
right?
Which once again should be competently made and has a great like source to work from, but is just a botched film. That is a bad film. This is made by a guy who just presumably showed up and they gave him the job because he had a camera, and they made the film. And there's no charm to it. There's no. Like other Friday the 13th films have tried to do comedy, no one's ever succeeded.
Well, part 6 we lauded for actually having a bit of personality, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah. And that is sorely missing, clearly.
Like this doesn't know what it's doing. It's like it tries to make jokes which are just so tonally deaf.
Yeah.
Like it's just, is that even a joke? It's just like colours on a screen. This is an hour and a half of colours on a screen.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more than that.
But not even like... That sounds, like it could be pleasant in some contexts. It's not like,
No, it's not. It's
definitely one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't know that. Yeah.
Like, I mean, they've all been bad. This is, I think, the worst one. I think it's a tie between this one and A New Beginning.
Yes. A New Beginning, though, like it has charm on the basis that it's just mind-bogglingly stupid.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it is a bad... It's the worst film I'd seen in the series before this one.
Yeah.
For sure. I don't know whether I'm just being nostalgic for it because this one's so bad.
Yeah. I mean, this was really bad. I mean, the name is ridiculous, obviously, because they don't get to New York until about 15 minutes before the end of the film.
Yeah.
Although it does follow the Friday the 13th naming conventions, such as the final chapter.
Yeah.
And,
The New Blood.
The New Blood, which, we never see again. And, so maybe it's a series tradition.
Yeah.
That, maybe, I know the next one's called Jason Goes to Hell. Maybe Jason does nothing of the sort.
He spends like 90 minutes in heaven.
Yeah.
Has a vision of hell. And that's like...
he spends it all in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it's pretty disgraceful.
So the film's set in 2002, as we discussed earlier, which makes the scene where Jason is walking through Times Square past a giant Batman the movie poster even more baffling, as does the decision to have the punks that he shows his face to listening to some very bad made for the movie 80s rap.
Yeah. Would punks be listening to rap in the first place?
Well, I mean, I'd say punks because they're in like denim waistcoats and hoodies and like...
Yes.
They look like
punks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, I don't know, but I don't know specifically, but maybe they'd be listening to rap, the lyrics for which are, living in the city ain't no big deal. You gotta have a heart made of US steel. If the crack doesn't get you, then the hookers will. That's unfortunately as much as we get of the the track. I'll tell you what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Louis Theroux documentary where he
makes his own rap? Yeah, about driving a Fiat Punto or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is exactly what it sounded like.
Yes.
Living in the city ain't no big deal. Living in the city ain't no big deal. You gotta have a heart made of US steel. If the crack don't get you, then the hookers will.
I gotta make this money, it's all on me. We gotta get this cheese, it's all we need. I gotta make this money, it's all on me. Louis, Reese and Big and the BBC.
Speaking of like tonal problems, I think the nadir of the entire Friday the 13th franchise is found within this film.
Really?
Yes.
Even worse than the Roy Burns is the killer reveal?
Yeah, because that's just incompetent storytelling. This is actually sort of nasty.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
It's the bit where Rennie is nearly raped by two hoodlums who inject her with heroin.
Yes.
Which is one of the... It's genuinely like just disgusting. Like,
yeah. It's
a repulsive scene.
Yes.
And
it has no place in the film.
No, exactly. I think that's the thing.
Like, the films are meant to be a jolly romp.
Yeah.
Through they're gruesome and silly, but like you've said before, horror movies are meant to be like a roller coaster.
Yeah, exactly.
And if a roller coaster said, just picture before we go down this dip, a woman being injected
like pinned
with
down and injected with heroin.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's awful. Basically, it's disgusting. And the like you say, I think the franchise has always been, obviously they're horror movies. They've never been pleasant experiences, even when they've been good films, which is to say never. But this is the first time that I think tonally it's bordered on sort of been repulsive, like it's been nasty and
I think nasty is a good word for it.
Yeah, but then you have that, which is like like we've spoken so many times about how like troubling it is often seeing depictions of rape in cinema, and then like less than 5 minutes later you have Julius's head being punched clean off with a single punch, flying off a building and then landing in a dumpster whose lid then shuts. Which is like that's a lot. That's a joke, isn't it? That's a visual gag.
Yeah.
It's like, what is this film? It's just it's appalling. It's so bad on every level.
Yes, it is. I mean, in the past, you've said that the worst scene, possibly in any film, has been the hitchhiker scene from Part 3.
Part 3, yeah.
Which involves a hitchhiker woman at the side of the road who doesn't have any lines.
No.
She just is stood at the side of the road.
And then she gets stabbed. And
she gets stabbed in the back, and that's like no mention of it ever again.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Which I agree is pretty terrible.
Yeah.
I would put it to you that the worst... There's two contenders for worst scene in the Friday franchise.
Yeah.
The first one is the scene where the Admiral tells his son to make the embarkment orders.
Right.
And he says, No, I don't.
I don't know. Or,
Yeah. No, he says, we'll weigh anchor and we'll set off.
Yeah.
And he's like, aren't you forgetting to put out the International Maritime Law signal?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, and he sulks off like a teenager.
Yeah. Because he is one. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's rubbish.
Yeah.
And what
what is that?
Yeah.
That has no reason
yeah.
for existing. Like, there's no callback or anything to that at all.
I don't care that his dad's the admiral.
Yeah. Like, is that I guess that's an attempt at character development, right?
Oh yeah, it's the same as saying like this character is pregnant or this character is in a wheelchair. But then
this character is an admiral. This character is an admiral's son.
yeah, like, it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll come to the admiral later because I want to talk about that. But
Yeah.
First of all, let's get to what really probably is the worst scene in the film.
Okay.
And I'd say, I mean, other than the troubling depiction of sexual violence, as we said,
Yeah.
which probably gets its own category. Of,
Friday the 13th is not the venue to discuss like sexual violence, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from a jolly discussion of the bad scenes in the film,
Yeah.
the disco scene, Chris.
Right.
A woman is chased into a disco, which is in full swing,
Yeah.
with no one in it,
Yeah.
in the boat somewhere.
Yeah.
Which, what is this boat? Like, we'll come to what the boat is. But she goes into this disco, which she stands in the middle of the dance floor for probably 30 seconds,
Yeah.
just spinning on the spot and getting overwhelmed by the music and the lights.
Yeah.
Jason appears at one point in her field of vision.
Yeah.
She then carries on looking around as if she hasn't seen him, and then he's gone.
Yeah.
And then, even though she's got a full 360 view, he just like walks up to her and
Strangles her. That's the weird thing about that scene is that he doesn't. That's the first time we see Jason strangle anyone to death.
Yeah.
And it's just it's like they had no ideas or no budget for like another way of killing them.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Killing the girl. I mean, that scene demonstrates Jason's new power. Obviously, we always like to check in with Jason, see how he's getting on. And it's clearly a bit of time at the bottom of Crystal Lake does wonders for your ability to teleport.
But does it? Because I didn't know whether we were supposed to read that as she's so dazzled and overwhelmed by the light and the sound that she doesn't know what's going on and the panic.
Yeah.
Or maybe she just can't see him because the lights are too bright.
Yeah.
Or maybe he really can teleport.
I think he can teleport. I think that is what it is.
But that's not the time to introduce it to us.
No, not at all.
During the most confusing part of the film.
Because it's really confusing though. Like that is a genuinely confusing moment. And then
Not intentionally though.
No, of course not. But then like there are later moments where it's apparent that he can teleport, like the bit that we mentioned in the synopsis. There's other bits where Julius is looking for looking for his friend.
Yeah.
And Jason appears behind him and all that
But
sort of thing.
is he teleporting or is it just really, really badly edited?
No, I think it is. I think it does look like it's really poor editing.
Yeah.
But there's no way that anyone. Like, I mean, there's a bit where Julius's friend climbs up a ladder,
Yeah.
and then we see Jason on the deck of the ship, and then suddenly he's just underneath the character on the ladder.
Yeah, but again, that's after the guy stops climbing because he gets like scared of going too high.
Yeah, but there's not enough time. Like I understand what you're saying, but
yeah, from a smart editing perspective, there's not enough time.
yeah, no, I understand that, but you're giving them there is no smart editing. Like I agree that it's not smart editing.
Yeah,
but it's also, I'm sure it must be intentional that he's jumping around that much. Like I said, the later scene where he literally appears
in the building.
Yeah.
But again, that could be like just like they're like, oh, well, he's really scary. Like, do you know what I mean?
think he is.
If
I think by this
if
point,
a 15-year-old was making the film, which basically they are with all these films, they'd say like, oh, it would be. He's just already in there. He's so fast. He'll get in there. Do you know what I mean? It's like
yeah. But then, like, I know what you mean. Yeah. But then, but the fact that, as you say, this is essentially a 15-year-old making it.
Yeah.
Then,
why wouldn't it just be
that is the
teleport?
case.
Yeah.
That is the case that you can teleport. Your argument is basically surely that's too rubbish of a idea. But have you seen these films?
I'm afraid I have.
Yeah, all later.
Well, maybe in Friday the 13th Part 9, Jason Goes to Hell.
Well, you can
we'll
just
learn more about the
teleport out of hell, surely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that disco scene, Joe, it's the character of Eva who gets killed.
Okay.
She's played by Kelly Hu, and that's going to come up a little bit later.
Oh, okay. The fact that she's played by Kelly Hu?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So look forward to that.
Okay, I will look forward to that. Thanks. Maybe now, speaking of characters, is the time to do my Friday the 13th roundup of the characters we see in the film.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Jensen Daggett, Chris, played Rennie Wickman. She was the main girl.
Yeah, main girl.
Yeah. Peter Mark Richman was Charles McCulloch. He
Okay.
was the demon headmaster.
Yeah, the teacher. Yeah.
Barbara Bingham was Colleen Van Dusen.
Yeah.
She was the teacher/mother.
Yeah.
The woman who was obviously casted originally to be the girl's mother because they have identical facial features and hair.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. Probably correct. Scott Reeves played Sean Robertson, who was love interest. Vincent Craig Dupree was Julius Gore, who was boxing guy.
Yeah.
Charlene Martin, she was Tamara Mason, Chris, and she was this episode's 40-year-old divorcee masquerading as a teenager.
Yeah.
Kelly Hu, as we've said, was Eva Watanabe, and she was the Asian disco girl.
Asian disco girl, yeah.
Martin Cummins was Wayne Webber, who was the video camera guy. Also looked exactly like Tom Ripley
Right.
from The Talented Mr. Ripley.
Yes.
That is Matt Damon with glasses, basically.
It's basically 1980s hipster.
Yes, exactly. Gordon Curry, Chris, played Miles Wolfe.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with Miles. I wasn't when I was doing this,
Yeah.
wrote my notes. So I looked him up. And this is from the Friday the 13th Wikia.
Oh, God. Right.
Miles encounters Jason on the ship's stern.
Right.
He tries to fight Jason with his axe, but Jason blocked the attack and threw the axe away, not like putting stuff in the garbage. After he realizes he cannot win the fight against the killer, he attempts to flee up the ship's mast. Make sense?
Yeah, is that the end of the...
No, there's
all right.
more.
Okay.
Saffron Henderson played J.J. Jarrett, who was on lead guitar, wasn't she?
Right.
She was a guitarist.
Yeah. No, I meant, was that the end of the biography?
Yeah.
Right. Carry on.
Why, did you want more than that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
JJ.
JJ, yeah, she was the lead guitarist.
Yeah.
Todd Schaefer played Jim Miller,
Yeah.
who was
from
the first
opening
guy. Tiffany Paulson was Susie Donaldson, who was first girl.
scene. Okay.
Not forgetting, Chris, Alex Diakon, who played the deckhand,
Right.
who kept saying, he's come back for you.
Yeah, Crazy Ralph Mark 3 then, basically.
Yep. Fred Henderson was Chief Engineer Jim Carlson.
Okay.
The two hoodlums, I couldn't find character entries for them.
Right.
Ace played Toby, the dog. And not forgetting, most importantly of all, that most fleshed out of all characters, Warren Munson, Chris, playing Admiral Robertson.
Okay.
Now, I mentioned I wanted to go into the Admiral status of this character.
Yeah.
Admiral is the highest rank in the Navy.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It is possible he's in the Coast Guard or the Public Health Service Commission Corps,
Right.
but he's obviously wearing a military uniform.
Yeah. Is it like his day off though, and he's doing it
He's
as a favour
in
to his
full
kid?
dress uniform.
I know, yeah, but is that not a... I don't know.
He's got full surface warfare officer insignia, and his medals surprisingly undistinguished for
Admiral.
an admiral of his rank. Yeah. His awards consist of the Joint Service Commendation Medal, the Navy Commendation Medal, the Navy Achievement Medal,
Yeah.
Navy Unit Commendation, the
Yeah.
Navy E Ribbon, National Defense Service Medal, the Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal, the Vietnam Service Medal,
Yeah.
Humanitarian Service Medal, the Sea Service Deployment Ribbon, and Republic of Vietnam Campaign Medal.
Right.
Now, he sounds like a very decorated man, but actually these decorations strongly suggest that his career has chiefly consisted of being present without any conspicuously meritorious service in command or administration.
Right.
And that is why he leaves the ship in charge of his 16-year-old son, who has no experience piloting a ship.
Yeah.
We'll come to that. I'm sure we'll come to that when we talk about How to Survive. Before we do that, Chris, I wonder, are you familiar with Friday the 13th, the TV series?
No, we're not. We always like to broaden our... every episode it seems we're broadening our scope. Just to talk about the wider context of Friday the 13th.
We need to know the universe in which this exists.
Yeah, of course. No, I wasn't aware of it. Please Enlighten me if you can.
The way I learned about it, Chris, I was looking at Rob Hedden,
Right.
who was the director of this, which a few interviews with him. Interestingly, do you know what his original idea for this movie was?
Did it involve Tina from...
Nope.
No?
No. It was Freddy vs. Jason.
Oh, was it? Okay, cool.
For the second time.
Yeah.
And guess what? They said no. So we said, can we take Jason out of Crystal Lake? And they were like, yeah, that's fine. He's like, New York. And I'm like, good idea. Good idea. Here's like £100,000 and one day's shooting schedule.
Yeah, I read that he had quite a sort of
torrid time trying to get that made.
Well, he'd like scripted, several sightseer tour style scenes throughout the highlights of New York City, and instead they got like one night in an alleyway and that was it in Times Square. Yeah.
Yes, that's basically it. Anyway, the reason I found out about the TV series is because he directed a few episodes of it.
Right.
So I'm going to tell you don't know anything about the series, really?
No.
Okay. I'll test your expectations, Chris, about what you think the Friday the 13th TV series would be like with my Friday the 13th, the TV series quiz.
Okay.
Original name.
Yeah.
How many episodes do you think were made? Bearing in mind, I hadn't heard of it till today, and I don't think you had either.
Well, it's an American show, so I think it would probably be a 13-episode season, but I wonder if it made it to the end of the first series. So I'm going to say 7.
Close. 72.
What? What?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. 72 episodes.
72.
You were right about it being clipped early. It didn't even make it to the end of its third season. They just said 10 episodes. They just pulled the plug on it. They were gutted. They hadn't even shot the finale, so they just had to end it.
Oh my god!
Completely unresolved. How many episodes feature Jason Voorhees?
A few. I don't know, like 10.
None.
Okay.
On that note,
yeah.
What do you think it's about? I'll give you 3 options for this.
Right.
And these are 3 potential opening monologues which were played at the beginning of each episode. So,
okay.
Is
3 series? Fucking hell.
Is it A? Louis Vendredi made a deal with the devil to drive a cursed taxi, but he broke the pact and it cost him his soul. Now, his niece Mickey and her cousin Ryan have inherited the taxi, and with it, the curse. Now they must pick up ghastly passengers to save their uncle's soul, and the real terror begins. Is it B? Louis Vendredi made a deal with the devil to sell cursed antiques, but he broke the pact and it cost him his soul. Now his niece Mickey and her cousin Ryan have inherited the store,
right,
and with it the curse. Now they must get everything back and the real terror begins.
Okay.
Or is it C? Louis Vendredi made a deal with the devil to cast curses on the people in his hometown, but he broke the pact and it cost him his soul. Now his niece Mickey and her cousin Ryan have inherited the task, and with it, the curse. Now they must break the curses placed on the people in their town, and the real terror begins.
Is it B, the antique store?
Yes, it is.
See, that is the best one out of the 3, I'm sorry to say, but yeah.
Yes. Which famous David directed an episode and then later went on to star in a Friday the 13th movie? I'll give you a choice of David Lynch, David Cronenberg, or David Hasselhoff.
I do know this. It's David Cronenberg.
It is.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, I only know it because he's in Jason X.
Yes, he is. Look forward to that.
Yeah. 20 weeks' time.
All right. Final round, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give you 2. I'm going to name an antique from the series.
Right.
And you tell me whether it is an antique from the series or a magical item from the Harry Potter universe.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so first of all, a grandfather clock which shoots heavy bolts at passers-by.
That sounds Harry Potter.
It is Harry Potter.
Okay.
A makeup case that grants its owner temporary good looks.
That's got to be Friday the 13th.
It is. A tea set that magically poisons the tea.
Friday the 13th?
Yes. An ancient set of robes that strangle the person who wears them.
Friday the 13th?
It's Harry Potter.
Is it?
Yeah. And tries to strangle Ron, apparently.
Oh. Don't remember that.
A book that the reader cannot stop reading or dispose of.
Friday the 13th?
No, it's Harry Potter.
Oh, okay.
One of the forbidden books. A book that makes the prophecies written in it real.
Friday the 13th?
Yes. And finally, a book that sears the eyes of the reader.
Friday the 13th?
That's Harry Potter.
Is that another forbidden book?
Yes.
Ah.
There's three.
How many bidden books were there?
There's 3 forbidden books.
3 forbidden books. Fair enough.
The third one was like obvious. It was like Voldemort's book or something.
Right, okay.
Just to run down a few of the other choice antiques from the Friday the 13th series.
Okay.
A doll that kills people for its owner.
Right.
The Aboriginal leash of dreams that makes its owner's dreams come true after he strangles people with the leash.
Right.
A 1954 Chevy car radio that allows time travel after it's smeared with blood.
Fucking hell.
A wheelchair that heals crippling neurotraumatic injuries by killing others and projects a ghastly, ghostly double of its owner.
What?
Projects a dangerous, ghostly double of its owner.
What is happening?
A 1919 World Series ring that predicts the outcomes of sporting events after killing someone who wears it. A hypnotist's bauble that grants wishes after it is used to hypnotize
Okay.
and kill a victim.
Nice.
A cameo pendant that allows its owner to resurrect someone by killing someone else. A Native American shaman's ceremonial rattle that can cure any disease, but only after it's been used to kill. A gold compact that makes men fall in love with its owner, who must kill them later. The Cupid of Malek makes women fall in love with the owner, and then kill them.
Right.
A surgical scalpel with an ivory and silver handle, which provides a successful surgery. Guess what you have to do first, though?
Do you have to kill someone with it
Yep.
first? Yeah.
An animated scarecrow that provides good crops. Guess what happens first, though?
It kills somebody?
Yeah,
does
beheads
it?
3 victims. Yeah.
Right.
A portable garden mulcher, which turns chewed up bodies into money. And my favourite of all, a comic book which turns its holder into an invincible killer robot.
Right.
So a lot of enchanted objects which require you to kill someone with them.
I can't believe they took such a rich tapestry of narrative, such as the Friday the 13th franchise, and made that out of it. So, Joe, it's about that time. I'd be amazed if we have any cogent advice for anyone by the time it's the 8th film in this fucking franchise. But maybe you'll surprise me.
I've got a few ideas.
How would you survive Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan? Directed by Rob Hedden. Released in 1989.
First of all, and I mentioned this earlier,
Yeah.
if you're an admiral,
Yeah.
which is the highest rank,
In the Navy, yeah.
yeah, I mean you could be fleet admiral, which is a bit higher. But
Highest rank in a single ship.
yes,
Yeah.
and I think you'd probably have to have a few ships under your command
Right.
to be an admiral.
Yeah. A history of success.
Yes,
Yeah.
you would have commanded like a lot. You'd be an important person.
Yeah.
Like an admiral. Just to be clear,
No one here is doubting that an admiral is an important role in
Yeah.
the Navy.
in that case, you must know the basics of like being on a ship,
Okay.
which are don't leave someone in charge of the ship who has only superficial experience driving a ship.
Right.
And this goes back to what is becoming a real problem I have with movies.
Okay.
Which it's only really been since we started How to Survive that I've noticed it.
Right.
Which is the idea that if your father is good at something, you have to be good at it as well.
Yeah.
Just by like osmosis.
Yeah.
So we saw that in Battle Royale recently.
Yeah.
Which was actually done for laughs and turned out to be a clever twist on it. Where the guy was like, oh, my father was a cook, so I know how to cook an amazing meal.
Exactly. But he keeps saying it for loads of different things. Yeah.
Yes, that was clever.
Yeah.
But this is done in like real life, and people keep saying it to him, like, you should be able to drive this ship. Your dad, even the
Yeah.
head teacher, who
Yeah.
presumably has like a background in.
He's an adult.
He's an educator. He realizes that you have
Yeah.
to teach people to do things.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So your survival tip is don't leave an unexperienced man in charge of a ship.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that seems reasonable.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing to argue here. It's good advice in a general sense, not just within the context of this movie,
No.
but overall.
Like if we went sailing with a professional sailor
Yeah.
and he said, take the wheel, I'd say, I'm not too comfortable doing that because I've never driven a ship before.
Yeah, definitely.
And he's like, well, it's about time, isn't it?
What about your dad? Your dad knows how to sail, though.
He said, you graduated high school today, didn't you? I said, yeah.
Yeah.
He said, well, that more than qualifies you.
Yeah.
So I've never been on a boat before.
It's good advice. It's good advice.
Yeah. Any ideas you've got?
Yeah, I've got an idea. This is for Jason, who, in fairness, has done a good job of surviving so far.
Yes.
Just don't just allow yourself to get hit by a car.
Yeah.
Like Rennie drives the police car straight at him, and this is a man who can teleport, and he just allows himself to get hit by the car. He just looks at the car like, there's a car coming towards me. It hits him. He like goes over the roof.
Yeah, but presumably he knows that's not going to kill him.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but it's like, but what? Like, I know it's not going to kill him, but it slows him down a considerable amount because he ends up like lying prone.
It knocks him out for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. In the classic Jason Vorhees style, he's like, damaged by it. It's just why, like, even if it doesn't kill you, right, which it clearly doesn't. Just why would you just let it happen anyway, though? Like, there's no reason for him to get hit by the car.
Yeah.
Like, he can teleport away. Like, just I don't understand why he would just like. We always talk about how annoying it is that Jason Voorhees has like a weird blend of like, he knows some things, like like you said in Times Square, he takes his mask off.
Yeah. And it's the first time we see him ever have self-awareness.
Yeah, and he shows his scary face to scare some people off.
Yeah.
Right, which he doesn't need to do. So he has some like intelligence going on. He's not just totally
He's
robotic.
getting something out of this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's like either enjoying it or whatever, right? What part of that like tallies with just allowing himself to be hit by a car? He's got like, 10 seconds of build up to like,
He sees it coming, yeah.
Yeah.
He was good to take 2 steps.
He could easily get out of the way. Even if he couldn't teleport, he could easily get out of the way.
Yeah.
But he just lets it hit him because why? Tell me why.
Well, there's 2 reasons.
Okay.
The first reason is, like James Cameron said, like, yeah, Jack could have survived Titanic.
Right.
But thematically he had to die.
Yeah.
Right? Thematically, Jason had to be hit by the car.
Okay.
Do you accept that as a defense?
Yeah, fine. Yeah. Great.
The second is that Jason is inconsistent at the best of times.
Right.
So name any character trait of Jason and say that you could depend on that to be there.
Whenever a person is about to hit him with an axe or a blunt object, he will turn around at the last second and like grab the thing in their hands and then throw it away.
Now, occasionally they'll break something over his head.
That's true, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's not consistent, is it?
There's nothing consistent about him. So perhaps part of his attack is to never show one consistent battle plan.
Because he's impossible to defend against.
Exactly, yeah. You can't read him.
Fair enough. So maybe that's why he can suddenly teleport, is that people have grown used to him like slowly walking towards them.
He's always been able to teleport.
Sure.
He just had to lure people into a false sense of security.
Okay.
All those people who were in, film to film,
who carry across the franchise, yeah.
Have a rich history of fighting Jason.
Yeah.
So yeah, I take your point that it's probably not the most helpful thing to help him survive.
No.
But there are pros to the cons.
Okay.
And it doesn't kill him. And it never would kill him.
No. What about you then? Have you got any more advice?
A couple of ideas.
Okay.
My next idea, Chris, is again, it's not something that only applies to this film. It's a general piece of advice that everyone should follow. That is, don't have an unsanctioned boxing match at sea with no healthcare professionals around.
Or supervision.
Which,
from an adult.
Which ends in a minor concussive injury.
Yeah. Well, it's relatively, it's a bit more than minor, isn't it? He essentially gets knocked out.
Yeah, he's dropped completely.
Yeah. He's totally sacked. So he's, yeah.
I assume he didn't get medical care afterwards.
Kids are going to be kids. Well, I mean, it's academic. Yeah, it's fair to say, because he then gets a hot sauna rock plunged into his abdomen by Jason.
Yeah. Showing us another
kids
trait
are going to be kids,
which is,
though, aren't they? Like they'll just do whatever.
Yeah. I mean, we grew up together. We hang out when we were kids.
Yeah.
I imagine if either of us had been knocked unconscious,
we
would have sought help.
Yeah, but maybe not if we were. I don't know.
At sea with a serial killer. Mm.
I don't know. I mean, like he it depends on the. He probably the victim might have fronted up and been like, "Oh yeah, it was nothing. I'm fine," and then later succumbed to like concussive brain trauma. But yeah. I mean, like I take your point, but yeah.
Is it okay? The question is,
That would. I mean, would it have helped him survive? No.
Yeah.
Would it have helped any of them survive? No.
Well, he might have had his wits about him if he had just been knocked out.
He could have. Yeah. Maybe he was going to be the person to stop Jason once and for all.
Yeah. With his rope-a-dope technique.
Yeah. Well, my second survival idea is for Jason. Again, just use doors normally.
Yeah.
Just like there's a scene towards the end.
Yeah.
Where Rennie and Sean, they go into a diner in New York and they say, there's a psychopath trying to kill me. And the woman behind the counter at the diner says,
you can't use this phone. Or...
Yeah.
Welcome to New York.
Welcome to New York, right? At which point Jason smashes through the door.
Yeah.
The door that the two characters just used. So it's open, it's unlocked. Right? There's literally no reason for him to just smash his way through the doors.
Well, Chris, there is one good reason. Now, it's like James Cameron said when he made Titanic.
He can teleport, Joe. He doesn't even need doors. He just, like, we see him use doors.
Yeah.
It's not that he doesn't understand doors and just think they're all walls. It's just, like, I mean, we're clutching at straws, aren't we? Anyway. But
that scene got the only laugh of the movie for me.
Right.
Which is when that, like, 9-foot man climbs over the bar, goes to fight Jason, and just gets launched at the wall.
Yeah.
That was like, I laughed at that.
Yeah.
Redeemed
the whole franchise. Have you got any final thoughts?
I just want to go back to that. I want to step to Jason's defense.
Okay.
Now, we know that he likes to scare people.
Yeah.
We see that when he reveals his ghastly visage to those hoodlums.
Yeah.
Perhaps entering the diner in that way. He knows he's got the upper hand in any fight.
But then what if, like as we've established, if he takes a blow to the head or something, impales in him in the wrong way, then he can be unconscious. He can be out of action for a matter of minutes. So, like, what if he smashed his way into the door and a pane of glass, fell over his head and he was unconscious?
Well, he punches too hard and an RSJ comes out the roof.
Exactly. Like, or he accidentally smashes through, like, a supportive beam in the building or something like that. I mean, he's that far from being scary. That's going to be embarrassing for him.
Yes, exactly.
So, just go through. I don't understand why he would do that. Tell me why he could just open the door. It'd be just as quick.
Would it be just as quick?
I think so. Like, but he's not. It's clear that speed is not a important factor in Jason's.
We can teleport anyway. So.
Exactly. Yeah. He either walks. Right. He's got two speeds. Jason Voorhees. It's either walking or moving faster than the speed of light to warp to literally anywhere because he can. Okay. So speed is not a factor that he has much concern with. All right.
Yeah.
Have you got any further thoughts?
Oh, God. I'm just looking over the next idea I've got, and I'm thinking, what have I done with my life? Like, this is Friday the 13th, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. And the level of research that this took.
Okay.
Here's how the city of New York could have survived.
Okay. Yeah.
And they need to implement these choices in order to survive. So, the New York Clean Water Act happened in 1972.
Yeah.
17 years before the film came out.
Sure. Sure.
So they should have been.
But don't forget that's 40 years before the
film set.
30 years before the film set.
Yeah. Also, the Hazardous and Solid Waste Amendments of 1984, they established the Environmental Protection Agency's authority for the Land Disposal Restrictions Program, which basically says don't put toxic waste everywhere.
Yeah.
Now,
please.
Yeah. In the early 2000s, which is when the film was set, no less.
Yeah.
There were 7,500 meters of underground sewerage in New York.
Mm-hmm.
and there were a suspected 1.3 billion gallons of wastewater per day.
Right.
Then let's assume that the 100-meter stretch in which that's final showdown takes place, when they're fighting against Jason in the sewer, that's representative of the whole of New York.
Assume so. Yeah,
that 100-meter stretch. So if we divide, we see it's filled to capacity as well. When the toxic waste hits,
they had to be right up the ladder. Otherwise,
exactly. They're in basically a
river. Yeah,
it's full up. If we divide out that 100 meters based on the 1.3 billion that go through the 7,500 meters of sewer every day in New York, we're looking at 1.3 million gallons of toxic waste dumped on Jason Voorhees.
Right.
And that's 1.3 million gallons of water of toxic waste that's dumped by one company every day at midnight.
Yeah.
So within 100 days, that's 1.3 billion gallons. And basically what I'm saying to you, Chris, is that they need a better system because that one man is now dead. The one man who was tending the sewers.
Do we know that he's definitely the only person?
Well, he says we need all the people we can get, right?
Right, yeah.
And he's the only one we see.
Right, yeah, but that's an assumption to say that he's the only person.
Right, there could be others tending. Yeah. What's he going to do?
Well, don't forget, that there's a child down there now as well.
Child's body.
Yeah, child. Well, is he a body or is he alive still?
It'll be an assumption. We'll have to wait for the next movie.
Yeah.
But what was that worker going to do, by the way? He's down there
He's just checking that no one's down there, Joe. And thank God he was there. Because without him, that Sean and Rennie
would have been washed away.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, Rennie, she doesn't have the stomach for this, does she?
I was trying to think of one earlier. I'm glad you got one. Anyway, what
her heart burns for Sean.
Yeah. Speaking of strong acids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Deep in the bowels of New York.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot to digest in this movie, isn't there?
There is, yeah. They need better systems.
Okay,
to deal with the toxic waste, which they're dumping into New York's water supply every day. 1.3 million gallons of toxic waste, which is so toxic, it burns the skin on contact.
Yeah. It burns people back to their child forms. Yeah. Which is truly horrifying. Do you think it de-ages you a sort of fixed amount of years?
So it's
or
like
is it relative? Or do you think it's like it de-ages you to 20% of your current age?
Which if I have a swig now, I'm probably about Jason's age, about 24. Oh no,
he's like
80.
Yeah,
at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who could say?
I think this is what I'm saying. What am I that I've gone to the lengths I've gone to discuss?
Yeah.
One of the worst films I've ever seen.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
Any more from you?
Yeah, I've got one more.
Okay.
I've got one more. This also took a little bit of research. And this is a survival tip for any actors who appear in the Friday the 13th franchise. So I found an article that says Friday the 13th actors, where are they now?
Right.
Okay. And it's a long, one of those, we've all seen them, picture and caption articles.
Yeah, like a slideshow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've all seen them. And so Friday the 13th actors, where are they now? Okay, so I haven't included any actors who appear in sequels to the films that we've seen.
Well, so no one from...
So this is just dealing from 1 to 8.
Just to be clear, that means no one from Friday the 13th Part 9, Jason Goes to Hell.
Yeah.
Jason X.
No.
Freddy vs. Jason.
Or the
remake.
Correct.
Or the upcoming remake, for that matter.
No. Yeah. So obviously it features Kevin Bacon, who far and away is the most successful actor to come out of the franchise.
Yes.
Corey Feldman, who's a successful child actor. We've seen him in Gremlins, and he's been in a lot of things in that era. And of course Crispin Glover, who the article, I would say generously, says has had steady work in Hollywood for the last 30 years, but of course is best known for Back to the Future.
Yes.
Watch how quickly this list deteriorates from this point onwards. So following Crispin Glover, the next most famous person, because it appears to be in list of sort of fame.
Fame order,
Right. Tony Goldwyn,
Right.
who, of course, I know it's on the tip of your tongue.
Yeah.
He was Darren in Friday the 13th, Part 6. I don't even remember who Darren was. He was most recently President Grant in ABC's Scandal.
Right.
Okay. Obviously, Kane Hodder, who plays
Right,
Jason
yeah.
in all the Friday the 13th from Part 7 till X. He's basically just horror movie villains.
Yes.
Is other films that he's been in. Then, of course, we've got Kelly Hu, who plays Eva in Friday the 13th, Part 8. She played China White in the CW's Arrow series. That's her big break.
Right.
That's it. So, from 8 movies, there are 6 actors who have had a semblance of a career since their appearance in the Friday the 13th franchise, okay? So, I counted up only the actors who die, right, in the Friday the 13th franchise.
Yeah.
In the 8 films that we've seen. So this isn't including any future films. This is just the films that we've seen. So that is 6 out of 119 actors. Or the equivalent of having a 5.04% chance of having any career success following your appearance in the Friday the 13th franchise. So my survival tip is don't.
God. They are awful. But to be fair, none of them were actors in the first place.
Who?
Anyone? These films, they're not.
They are actors. They
They're
are
not.
actors. They are
Most
actors.
of them are like, how big are your boobs?
No, there's the girl who the one that you described as a 40-year-old divorcee.
Right.
Who's in this film? She has a shower scene. Mm-hmm. There's in the behind the scenes like notes about this film. She didn't want to do the shower scene and had to be convinced by Rob Hedden to do it by him also getting naked and taking a shower. Why that would convince anyone to do anything, I don't know.
Because it's all very well him doing that, but he's not the one doing it on camera.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like he's the body double for her.
Do you think he just needed a shower?
Oh, probably.
Maybe he's like, Rob, you stink. I'll
Yeah.
do this if you shower
Yeah,
for once.
Please
God.
shower. Anyway, that's about it for Friday the 13th, Part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan. We'll see you again in another 10 weeks for Friday the 13th, Part 9. Jason Goes to Hell. Yeah.
Do you think so at the end, right, when he's being melted in acid,
Yeah.
do you think the flames that flicker onto the screen in a sort of superimposed style,
Yeah.
do you think that's his spirit going to hell in like a foreshadowing
I
moment?
don't believe that is what it's doing now.
Is it meant to be him burning and that's how they've done it?
I think so, yeah.
That's terrible.
If you've got any thoughts on the Friday the 13th franchise, then email them in howtosurviveshow@gmail.com or get in touch on Twitter. The Twitter handle is @howtosurvivepod. Joe, what have we got coming up next?
Next week, Chris, you may have heard of the film. Mm-hmm. It is, of course, Rogue One, a Star Wars story. The first standalone movie in the Star Wars extended movies Disney cash cow.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
So we'll be delving into that next week. But in the meantime, got a couple of...
Oh yeah, Christmas is coming.
Yeah.
We got a lot of praise for our great work over at Halloween.
Yeah.
When we released the Trick and Treat episodes.
Of course.
It wouldn't be Christmas without us, giving the fans something to open in advance.
Furnishing them with gifts.
Yes. And of course, Christmas Day would be a mental time to launch because if anyone is listening to us on Christmas Day, why?
We're not your family. Come on.
Oh, well, flattered, but we're not going to launch a new episode on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
That would be mental.
We are launching a new episode though this Friday.
Yes.
And that'll be Home Alone 2, Lost in New York.
Yeah. So if you like shit sequels, which if you've got to the end of this episode, you probably do.
Yeah.
Then you'll love that. And of course, on Boxing Day, we're launching another new episode, and that is, of course,
The best Christmas film of all time.
Yes. Die Hard.
Correct.
Yeah. Long time coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one to chat about.
Yes,
Yeah,
so-
the festive period. So yeah, one episode there for maybe anyone who's traveling home on trains, maybe long car journeys. That'll be Home Alone 2, just ahead of the festive period. And then of course Die Hard will be out in time for when you're all sick of your family members and you want to like hide away in your room and forget about them for an hour.
Yes. And then after that, Rogue One going live just in time for the new year.
Yes.
And so, a very Merry Christmas to you all.
Yes.
We'll see you before that. So,
Yeah, and see you in another 10 weeks for another fucking piece of shit film.
Yes. Thank you for listening. And goodbye for now.